Hey guys, it is NCS Fan 001 here for another one of those weekly trophy talks or trophy list updates. Today's date is July the 1st of 2025, so this will have covered the week of June the 24th through the 30th of 2025. Wow, we are literally already halfway through the year, which is kind of insane, honestly. Anyways, I would say that this was a reasonably productive week overall, and I think I got the platinum already in that one a previous night. Yeah, that's right, I already got the platinum in that one. But otherwise, I did manage to get a different platinum and start another new game. So we'll start out with Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings here. So with this game, I've already talked about it before, of course. It only took me a few days to get the platinum trophy this time. I mean, it's about how long the other one took. So it's a pretty straightforward game. It's a platformer with kind of a platformer, 3D puzzles at times, and some kind of janky combat. It's not that bad of a game by any means, but it's just not really one of the better ones out there. It's a PS2 Classics title. It definitely is a product of its age, but the platinum trophy in this game is pretty easy overall. So what you're going to have to do is in each of the game's 6 levels, because there's only 6 levels, but they are quite long, or at least some of them are, you're going to get one trophy just for finishing the level. You're going to get one trophy for finding all the artifacts in the level, of which there's anywhere from 2 to 12 depending on the level. And you will also get a trophy for doing a miscellaneous action. So Sudan is the tutorial level. It's pretty short. It's pretty easy overall. The 8 planes is a little bit annoying just because there's only 9 of them and they come at you kind of fast and the controls for the plane aren't really the best. Then you have San Francisco. This one has a lot more artifacts, and throwing combat items, though, is actually pretty easy because this level gives you tons and tons of them to throw. Then you get to Panama, which is one of the longest levels in the game, if not the longest, or it's very close to it if it's not. It has only about 7 collectibles, but it is a pretty long level with a lot of combat. And then releasing the beast just requires you to hit a specific switch in one specific area of the game, so nothing too much to worry about with that. Istanbul is another really long level, and it has the most artifacts with 12, and its miscellaneous trophy is very easy as long as you know where it is. It's the very end of the level. Basically, you have to stand on a little switch to poke people with a sword, and it's how you can kill some of the last group of enemies in the level, so it's not too bad. And also it needs to be mentioned that this game has the rewind feature like most of these games do, which makes them significantly easier to get through. Then you have Nepal, the 5th level. This one starts out with you having to navigate through some cold areas and warming up by fires or else you die. And that's actually the miscellaneous trophy. There's, I think, 4 total fires. There's the starting one and then 3 more you have to start during the first area. And then there's 5 artifacts, so nothing too much to worry about with those. Because again, there's always collectible guides for the artifacts. And there's only about 38 total in the whole game, so it's not too bad. And then you have Odin, which is the final chapter of the game. This one starts out up on a Zeppelin, and it's mostly like an on-rail shooter segment with cover shooting mechanics. And then there's some actual melee combat, and then you get into the weird chase sequence at the very end. Collecting the artifacts, there's only 2, and they're both in the motorcycle chase at the later part of the level. And then this one, you only have to defeat the boss during the motorcycle chase without taking damage, which isn't... I would definitely recommend making a backup save before you go into it so you don't have to replay the whole level if you mess up. But you can always use the rewind feature to go back if you do manage to screw up here, so nothing too much to worry about with that. Just be a little bit careful with your driving and shooting. Then we have our only 2 miscellaneous trophies, or non-level specific miscellaneous trophies in the game. This view everything in the fortunes and concept art is pretty easy. You just, have to click on literally everything. It's really not that much more else to say about it. But for this one with the big heads, this is an item that you get maybe halfway through the game, maybe even a little bit earlier. So back out to the main menu, equip it, and then complete a level with it. It doesn't change the gameplay or anything, but it does make the health bars of enemies a little bit harder to see, so just do keep that in mind. Otherwise, just complete any level with it, or you can always go back and recomplete a previous level with it later on, so that's totally fine as well. So yeah, pretty easy overall platinum trophy. Takes 6-ish hours of actual gameplay, so nothing too much with it, especially with the rewind feature. You can also play on the easier difficulty, but just keep in mind that the game is kind of a product of its age, like I said before. Next up, Resident Evil... Oh, okay. That's something I don't usually have happen. Anyway, Resident Evil 7. I already had the Platinum Trophy done, but as of this past week, I have the 100% done. And yeah, that's pretty awesome. No more worrying about Resident Evil 7. That's another Resident Evil game complete. We can look at the series here in a second. So once again, with the base game, quite a few of the trophies auto-popped through both the base game and the DLC, since I had good backup save locations from the PS4 version. Everything through Into the Depths is story-related and unmissable, and that's why this Platinum's so common. It's because it's not overly long like some of the Resident Evil games, and you can auto-pop a large chunk of it. The two endings do not auto-pop unless you have a save at the very end of the game before either of the endings, so do keep that in mind. Beating the game on the different difficulties, you do have to beat it on Madhouse, but it will auto-pop the two lower difficulty trophies if you were to do Madhouse first. And Madhouse isn't really too bad in this game for the most part because you can use the circular saw the whole way through once you have it. I don't remember how you unlock it though, but once you have that, it makes it significantly easier. But all three of these trophies also auto-pop if you carry over your save to the PS5 version, which is great. Then you have a few miscellaneous trophies, and, well, a lot of the rest of the game is miscellaneous trophies and collectibles and such, so opening or closing an open door is pretty much unmissable, and that's an auto-pop trophy. Blocking an enemy attack is an auto-pop, super easy though. Examining an item, I think, is an unmissable story-related trophy, and it also auto-pops. Master of Unlocking, this one auto-pops, and this one's pretty much unmissable as well. And then putting an unrelated item, this is definitely one you could miss, but it's still at least very easy to do, and it does auto-pop. Using the psychostimulants apparently doesn't auto-pop for absolutely everyone. For some reason, it auto-popped fine for me, but it apparently doesn't work for like everyone out there. But just use them for the first time. Those are the items that show you like where other objects are throughout the world. Increasing your item slots, though, does not auto-pop, and like I've talked about before, I think this game has one of the most bizarre auto-popping situations ever because there's not a whole lot of consistency as to exactly what unlocks or why certain things unlock, but it is what it is. So with this one, increasing your item slots, you just have to find a backpack, and there's like 3 different opportunities for this, and you're definitely going to want to do this because your starting inventory is pretty minimal. Finishing off an enemy with a knife is pretty much unmissable just while playing through the game, and, I mean, especially early on in the game when it's about the only weapon you're going to have. And it also auto-pops, same with clearing the insects off a door using a knife. You could potentially miss this one if you never think about doing it. Would definitely recommend knocking this out as soon as you can when you get to that second like old house area or greenhouse area. Then you have this one for fighting off Marguerite while she wanders the old house and making her run away, and for some reason that one auto-pops, but some of the other combat ones do not, because that makes so much sense. This one is during, I think, the second boss fight with Jack, not the one in the car, but the one where you get the chainsaw, and you just have to dodge underneath one of his attacks. It's pretty easy, and you'll probably get it normally while on your Madhouse playthrough. Then kill 2 enemies with 1 shot is fairly easy, but you're going to need some of the more powerful weapons in the game to do it, such as a Magnum or something. Because this game actually is one of the only ones that doesn't have a rocket launcher in it, which is quite surprising. Because, like, Resident Evil 1, of course, has one, 2 and 3, of course, have them, 4, of course, has it, 5 has it, I don't know about 0. And then 6 may not actually have a rocket launcher, so it might be the second one to not have it. And I'm not sure about Resident Evil Village because I haven't played it all the way through yet or anything like that. Shoot and knock back Marguerite while she's leaping at you. That one does not auto-pop for some reason, even though it's another combat trophy similar to this Back Off Mrs. B one. But it's very easy to do when you're in the battle against Marguerite in the old house, and you might very well get it naturally, but just make sure that you know it's there because that's your only real good opportunity to get it. Then this one is another combat trophy that does not auto-pop. You have to get this when you get back to the ship during another playthrough. So once you get to the ship where you're playing as Mia, just find a remote bomb and attach it to an enemy. It's pretty easy, it's just weird that that one doesn't pop, but some of these other ones do. Create all of the items that contain either chem fluid or strong chem fluid. There's not a ton of them, there's maybe like 6 or 7 total, so it's not a lot, and you'll probably get this fairly naturally while going for other trophies. Then we have a couple of videotape trophies. You have to get through the Mia one without being spotted, which is pretty generous because Marguerite can be pretty near you and not see you, or almost seemingly in your line of sight, like through a wall or something, but not see you, so it's not really too bad. Plus, you can repeat this as many times as you need to. Then the Happy Birthday videotape within 5 minutes is pretty easy once you know what to do. I would recommend play through it once so you learn how to do everything quickly, and potentially have a guide up, and then just speed run through it the second time. You shouldn't have too many problems. And just like with the Mia videotape, you can replay this one as many times as you need to. Watch all the videotapes in a single playthrough. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them, so that's a collectible trophy, of course. The antique coins, there are more of them in Madhouse, and they're in different places. And the antique coins are used to unlock a few extra items from the bird cages in a couple of the safe rooms. So you do have to do this twice, once on easy or normal, and then once on Madhouse, which is really, really strange. And I don't think doing it on Madhouse will auto-pop the lower level one, but they do both auto-pop if you've done them before and carry over your save. Same with all of the files, of which there are quite a few in this game, if I remember correctly. And you have to read all of them in a single playthrough, so that's highly missable because there's a lot of areas you can't go back to. And then it's the same thing with the Mr. Everywhere statues, except that these are collectibles that you just have to destroy. But again, all these collectible trophies auto-pop, which is very, very nice. And then you have a few full game trophies, so you have to complete the game in under 4 hours, which is quite generous. You can do it in under 3 if you really know what you're doing. And that trophy auto-popped, but for some reason, these two did not auto-pop. But I was able to go in and get them later on, or not even really that much later on, because I had a save file near the end of the game, like at the very final save point, from my resource manager and walk it off combined playthrough. If you're really struggling with either of these, you can always do them over the course of multiple playthroughs. The item box one is probably the more annoying of the two, simply because there's at least 2 times where you automatically have to use the item box. And then there's one other time where you pretty much are implied, well, not necessarily implied, but I think you're supposed to really go into it toward the end of the game, like when you get to the final Ethan section to pick all your gear back up. I guess technically you might be able to get through it without, but you're probably going to need to do it there. So you really only have 3 opportunities where you have to use it anyway. Which I think that in some of the other games there is like a trophy for not using the item box at all. I think Resident Evil 1 might have had a trophy like that. So it's basically the same thing as that. And then completing the game using only 3 first aid meds or less is actually really not all that hard, because you can also use steroids, and you can do this on the easiest difficulty. And the steroids not only fully heal you, but they also give you more maximum health, which is fantastic, and you can use all 4 of those, so don't worry too much about this trophy, it's really not that bad. Okay, so now for the DLC. We're going to come back to Banned Footage Volume 1 in a moment. Banned Footage Volume 2, this one has the very, very obnoxious 21 Survival Plus mode. And I actually played a little bit of it on screen just to show it, like during one of the streams. Now, to be fair, without really even trying all that hard or really even remembering all the strategies and stuff of it, I was able to get all the way to like near the end of the 5th opponent. But you have to defeat 10 opponents in a row with only 10 units of health for yourself, and the game's completely random as to what enemies you have to fight, what cards you get, what trump cards you each get, all that kind of stuff, which is just not fun. And I gotta say, for how great of a game Resident Evil 7 is, they made some pretty god-awful DLC trophies, or at least DLC modes, I gotta say that. They're all either, for the most part, they're all either very badly made and untested, completely RNG-based, or just really, really weird and kind of out of place. At least for the banned footages, the End of Zoe DLC is not bad at all, but it is strange, and we'll get to that in a second. The Not a Hero DLC is pretty good, though, because you're playing as big buff Chris, or kind of buff Chris, even though he probably couldn't punch a boulder anymore, I don't know. He can punch enemies, though. But the 2 endings in Daughters, those are both super easy, because that's a pretty easy mode with no combat. It's basically just a side story. All 5 of those trophies auto-pop, thank God. And then you have the Jack's 55th birthday mode, where you have to find food around each of the settings and bring it back to Jack in a time limit while killing enemies. Feeding him every type of food does auto-pop, which is kind of nice, because there are a lot of different combinations, and some can't even be made on every map. The S-rank one, this one does not fully auto-pop, but if you've done it at least once, like if you've done an S-rank or higher on all maps on the PS4 version and carry over your save, you only need to re-get an S-rank one more time, and that's all you have to do to get this, so nothing too bad with that. You can just do it on one of the easy levels. And then finally, you have to get a 10-minute time bonus or higher while also clearing a stage. This isn't that hard once you have a good strategy for it, but you do need to have a pretty decent strategy for it, with using the red and blue pistols at the right times against the right enemies, knowing exactly how to clear the stage still fairly quickly, all that kind of stuff. So that one might take a few tries, but it shouldn't be too bad. Then we get to End of Zoe. So this is a story-based DLC where you play as her Uncle Joe. I think it's her uncle. And the brother of Jack Baker, and basically in this DLC, he punches things to death, is his whole thing. It's kind of strange, and I will say that the Joe Must Die difficulty is rather challenging because, like, the alligators will one hit kill you on every difficulty, and the enemies can be pretty brutal on the higher difficulties. Plus, there's several boss fights throughout it that can also be kind of challenging. Now, the good thing is that for the Joe Must Die difficulty, you can have the one half of that gauntlet power that you get after your first playthrough or something, so it makes it a lot easier. And luckily for me, I actually didn't need to replay the whole thing because I had a save at the very end of my Joe Must Die playthrough. So just finishing off the final boss fight from there, which only took a couple of tries, got me both of the difficulty trophies, which was great. Completing an extreme challenge, this one auto pops. There's like 5 or 6 of those you can do. Just do the very first one. You just have to basically clear an area as quickly as possible. It's not too hard if you know what you're doing. Then the 4-hit combo with your bare fists is fairly easy. You can do it on like the very first enemy if you don't, stealth kill him. Super, super easy because that's the whole gimmick of this mode is just the melee combat. And then stealth killing 5 enemies. I don't think it has to be done in a single run. I think it can be done over the course of multiple runs. But you can also knock this out like very, very early on at the very beginning of the DLC in the first like 5 minutes or so. Completing the mode on normal or Joe Must Die using no weapons sounds pretty challenging, but you are allowed to use the gauntlet. You're actually allowed to use the double gauntlet, and you're allowed to heal as much as you want. Just the only thing is you can't use the spears against the gators, which makes the gators the most annoying part of this, because the gators will come at you from pretty far away and they one-shot you. So you need to punch them from pretty far away with the gauntlets. It actually has more range than it probably should, which is a good thing because otherwise this would be a heck of a lot harder with how quick they are to hit you. But I would say that Joe Must Die is definitely one of the more difficult trophies in the game overall, but though it's not as bad as 21 Survival Plus or Ethan Must Die. Not a Hero, this is the Chris Story DLC. This one was actually free, I'm pretty sure, from the beginning. And it's fine, it's not a bad DLC at all. It gives you extra story from after the end of the main game, but before the end of Zoe DLC. And you just have to beat it twice, once on easy or normal, and then a second time on professional. It's not a particularly long scenario. It is very, very heavily combat focused, so more like a Resident Evil 5 or 6, but in first person. It's not too bad. I actually wrote the guide for that DLC, which was a fun time back in the day, because it was the last one that released. And both of those trophies auto-pop, by the way, so I didn't actually have to do it again. So now we go back to Banned Footage Volume 1. The Nightmare Trophy does auto-pop, which is kind of nice, because you have to beat Nightmare Mode to unlock Night Terror Mode. Basically, Nightmare is a 5-wave Nazi Zombie-style survival mode, where you can activate little scrap machines to get you scrap that you then trade for weapons and upgrades and such. And on rounds 2 and 5, you have to fight Jack Baker, and then sometimes you have to fight like the Fat Molded. It's always just the Fat Molded, the Crawly Molded, and the regular Molded are really the only 3 enemies that you'll have to fight alongside Jack in those couple of scenarios, so really there's not a whole lot of enemy variety at least. And you can also buy like traps and stuff. So for Night Terror Mode, this one did take me several tries because I guess I just didn't really have that great of a strategy for it. What I would recommend is that unless you really care about like getting a high score to unlock more stuff, well, really there's 2 options. You can either keep grinding out the Nightmare Mode or even the Night Terror Mode somewhat until you get enough points banked overall to where you can purchase, to where you'll have the ability to purchase certain things. You'll also get more starting equipment and such the better you do over time, but eventually once you've scored like 10 million total points, you can get infinite ammo, which would make this a complete and total joke, because then you just buy the Magnum and just go to town on everything. But you really don't need it. I was nowhere close to that. I only had maybe 200,000 total points, or no, not even 200,000, like 2 million probably, so I was still way away from that. But in Night Terror, the enemies are just more aggressive and numerous, the scrap collects slower, and you die faster, so just keep all that in mind. I would recommend trying to get through the first round using the knife as much as possible, and maybe the handgun a little bit, because it's cheap, and a few of the upgrades, and then once you get to round 2, you should get enough scrap to be able to buy the circular saw, and the circular saw will make most of the regular enemies go down pretty quickly. You'll then just have to use the Magnum and the traps against Joe and the Fat Moldeds that don't die quickly to the saw blade, so just keep that in mind. The bedroom scenario is pretty easy. You can collect the 3 dead rats in it pretty easily if you have a guide, and then completing the bedroom itself is quite easy overall if you have a good guide, but you do have to be very careful because it's quite easy to fail it if you make just one little mistake. It's basically like an escape room. Except in this escape room, you actually do die if you fail, so yeah, that's real pleasant. And then we have arguably the hardest trophy in the entire game, Ethan Never Dies. Of course, we did have that one done last week, and I talked a lot more about it then, so I'm not going to go into crazy depth with it here. But basically, play through a shortened version of the mansion with completely random equipment on every single playthrough, semi-random enemy placement and behavior, though not completely random, like their behaviors a little bit random on some runs, but their placement is usually about the same or one of 2 things. But the equipment that you get is completely random on each playthrough. You never know what you're going to get, and that can make a lot of runs go bad. It took me about 29 tries, and I am going to be doing a video of that in the near future, so definitely excited for that. So yeah, that is Resident Evil 7 completed. We can actually go ahead and take a quick look at the overall series. So in the No stage, I finished Operation Raccoon City, of course. That was Platinum number 600. There's Umbrella Corps, Resistance, and Reverse, which is now unobtainable, which is really sad. Then you have the original Resident Evil. I'm sure that I think they said they are working on like a remake or remaster of Resident Evil 1 at some point, probably in the way of 2 and 3. Code Veronica X, I think, is one of the shorter ones, but I think it's kind of tough from what I've heard. 0, I do own and probably will still do someday, but I know it's definitely one of the harder ones. Resident Evil 4, did it twice, the original version of it. Umbrella Chronicles, I think is, because it's like Umbrella Chronicles and the Dark Side Chronicles. And they're both fairly challenging, but one of them's maybe shorter than the other. Resident Evil 5 done twice, of course. Very underrated game. So there's Dark Side Chronicles. It looks like Dark Side Chronicles is probably the more difficult, rare one. Revelations and Revelations 2. I want to say one of these has online maybe, and the other one doesn't. Is it? Okay, it's definitely... That one's got some co-op stuff to it. So what about 2? I feel like I was looking into this and like maybe one of them has online and... Okay, so 2 does not have online, but it just has difficult trophies. Okay, that's good to know. And then Resident Evil 7 done twice, Resident Evil 2 Remake done twice, Resident Evil 3 Remake done twice, Resident Evil 4 Remake done twice, Remaster Remake, and then Resident Evil Village, I do own both versions, just haven't gotten started on it yet. Need a little bit of a break from Resident Evil after suffering through Ethan Must Die. So yeah, that is it for Resident Evil 7. It's finally done. Another Resident Evil game down. Another numbered Resident Evil game down. Initially, I wasn't thinking about doing 6 again, but it looks like I have quite a few people in my chat that might actually be down to boost it with me, because it's really... all the DLC stuff's easy, and the base game is also fairly easy. It's just it takes so long to boost everything, and I'm not going to go crazy like Illusion and buy 4 PS4s or PS5s, or in his case, he bought like 8 of them. And finally, Death Stranding. So this came out of absolutely nowhere, but with how good Death Stranding 2 is looking, I decided to finally go back and start playing the original Death Stranding. So this is not the complete edition, Director's Cut edition, because the Director's Cut edition actually auto-pops almost everything when we load into it after finishing this first version, so might as well get 2 Platinums for the price of 1. Especially for a game that's this long. And overall, the Platinum Trophy is relatively easy. It's only a 3 out of 10, but that 100 hours is seeming pretty accurate so far. So you get 14 trophies just for finishing the main story. Those are all just story-related, unmissable. Currently, I'm probably close to the end of Chapter 3, which I think is one of the longer chapters in the game, because then we go to Chapter 4. It looks to be quite short. Chapter 5 is a bit longer, Chapter 6 is short, 7 seems short, 8 seems fairly short, 9 seems pretty short, 10 a little bit longer, 11's short, 12's pretty short, 13's pretty short, 14's a little bit longer, I guess, so I might actually be making pretty good progress overall in the story. Now, this is one of those games where you pop a lot of trophies early on and then are going to go a very long time without getting any trophies, because, like, the first stream I popped, like, 8, the second stream I popped, like, 12, the third stream I only popped, like, 3, and I think it's going to slow down further. So, the standard orders are the orders that you get that go between different settlements that are not the orders per SAM, which are the story orders, and they're usually much smaller. So just complete 36 total of those, which is pretty much unmissable. Then you have to complete the premium deliveries with a rank of Legend of Legends, in every single category, and there's like 4 different categories, so basically it's like 80 total deliveries you have to do here. And I believe this one has to be done on the hard difficulty. Now, I'm playing on the medium difficulty or normal difficulty already, so yeah, different standard orders on hard difficulty with the S rank. And I've been getting a lot of S ranks so far on just normal difficulty for most of the missions and stuff, but I know that's going to be a little bit harder, but I'm not going to do that until later on in the game, because you kind of need to have a lot of infrastructure in place before doing that, and currently I am far away from having that done. Issuing a first supply request, I'm not entirely sure how to do that, but I assume it's easy. Complete a standard order with a delivery bot. I think I'm going to be having access to that very soon, actually. Build your first structure and then one of each type of structure. There's like 70 or so structures in the game, so there are quite a few different ones to build. Complete or connect your first new settlement and then connect all settlements. That's all basically just part of completing the map. Reach maximum connection level with all the facilities. That's just level 5. You just have to keep making orders to each of them, which you might get naturally while going for a couple of those other trophies. Then you have these 3 like trophies. These are literally all unmissable. You're going to get these all very early on in the game. Deliver a piece of lost cargo. Basically collect a piece of lost cargo from anywhere and then carry it to wherever it was supposed to be going. For this one, you can go to the shared locker in any settlement and donate a piece of material. So just like donate a blood bag or something, and that will count for this trophy. The chiral crystals is pretty much unmissable. You're going to do this in a very early order in the game, and you need them to build a lot of the infrastructure anyway. The memory chips, I don't know what those are. Haven't found any of those yet. The customization data is, I think, unmissable, but I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I got it without any real problems. The hot springs, I don't think you can do until a little bit later in the game. And then reading different mail and interviews, I don't think I have enough of them yet to be able to get either of those, but that's pretty easy. This trophy for Pathfinder, I got by accident. I don't even know exactly what I did. I think like when I was clearing out a mule camp, there must have been a porter nearby and somehow it popped the trophy. So this one may very well just come naturally. Maximum connection with BB probably will come naturally while doing that insane number of orders. Getting a like from him is pretty much unmissable. Level 10 in any delivery evaluation category is unmissable. 60 in all of them probably is not going to be all that hard overall, because I think I'm already 60 with the bridge category, and I'm pretty close on like one of the other ones, so we'll have to see. The catcher, I think, is the first boss in the game, I believe is who it was at the very end of Chapter 2. And that would make this an unmissable story trophy. Oh, yep, it sure is. So it's an unmissable story trophy. Heal by sleeping for the first time. I'm pretty sure that I've slept several times, unless it just means like sleep out somewhere else in the world. I'm not entirely sure. And then change out boots. This is unmissable because you're going to need to use better. You're going to need to replace your boots constantly. Deliver lots of cargoes, pretty much unmissable. Really, all of these are probably unmissable while going for those premium deliveries. Higgs's home, I guess, is just a location that we'll find at some point. This one, I have no idea how that one works. This one, I just haven't seen any other porters to trade with, so that's probably a late game trophy. This one, I'm actually surprised I haven't done yet, because I'm pretty sure it's quite easy to do. The shout, basically just push the touchpad whenever you're just out and about, and sometimes you'll get an answer back, and that's how you get this trophy. And one nice thing about this game is that it has a very friendly overall player base. Like, people are more than willing to work together to actually build structures and stuff. And then they leave their structures around, and they do actually deteriorate like I thought they did, but it's really, really slow. Like, it happens very, very slowly, and stuff will stay in place for quite a while. So other bridges and stuff that better equipped players have built, and roadways and all that kind of stuff. So it's not too bad in that sense, because you will have other players that are going to be friendly in that way. Dispose of chiralium-contaminated cargo in the crater lake. I don't know anything about doing that one. Upgrade all types of structures to their maximum level, so that's like the bridge, and I think the post box, and the roads maybe, stuff like that. Pee outside, because of course that's a trophy in this game for some reason. Then this one, complete your first road. You're going to be doing this a lot if you want to be able to traverse the world more easily. Use the music player. I actually could go ahead and do that really at any time. That's very easy, like in one of your private rooms. Bridge link grade 1 is unmissable. Like, that's from just building a few structures and such. And then fabricate everything in the game. I'm nowhere near having that one done. So I guess one thing is, what's my thoughts on Death Stranding so far? I'm actually really liking the game. I'm surprised. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I will agree with what Lizard Guy said when I told him that I was hoping for a good, fun, more casual, relaxed experience. It's a good game to play fairly casually, a couple hours a night or something. But it is not necessarily a relaxing game because things can go very badly out of absolutely nowhere. And I've nearly voided out at least once, but I somehow got away from it. So, yeah. But I'm having a lot of fun with the game so far, and definitely gonna finish this platinum off. I don't know if I'm gonna stream all of it. I'm probably gonna stream like all the story stuff, but once I get to some of the grindier stuff, I probably won't be streaming most of that until I'm close to the platinum, just because there's so much grindy stuff you have to do with this whole game. So with that, level 992%, 30,611 total trophies, 884 platinums, 5,916 golds, 8,230 silvers, 15,581 bronzes. Plans for the upcoming week. Well, the main plan for this week in terms of trophy progress will probably be to continue working on Death Stranding, and there's at least a few trophies I can get in it, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of trophy progress this week because I'm going to be going home for a long weekend for the 4th of July, so I'll be gone from Thursday and then get back here on Sunday. So probably will not be making a whole lot of trophy progress. I'm not going to lug my PS5 back with me, just probably my Switch. So probably will not be making too much trophy progress this week, but I will make any that I can. So it's also possible there might not be a trophy update next week. I might just skip the week if there's really no progress this week. Other than that, though, the College Football 25 video is like 95% of the way done, so it'll be out this week. As will probably one of the old school sort of trophy videos as I continue to get those caught up, because I'm getting close to getting caught up with those up to like... I think Astrobot's going to be the next one after this, which is going to be a long-form video, and then Clock Tower Rewind Speedrun, some other long-form videos, so stuff like that. And then I'll also work on the Resident Evil 7 Ethan Must Die video. Still need to make a couple of shorts out of that as well, with how painful a couple aspects of it were. But yeah, that's really about all there is to say for this week. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell if you haven't done so already. Let me know down in the comments what kind of progress you guys were making this past week. And like I said, I don't really know what the schedule is going to be all that much like this week. Should definitely get the college football video out, but the streams are going to be potentially very few, if any, because I don't know exactly how the schedule is going to work out. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stream Wednesday. Won't be streaming Thursday through Saturday, but I will have those videos go up. Sunday is, I guess, up in the air as well. So, thank y'all for watching. See y'all back here very soon for some more trophy content.